Hello, welcome back to the Max Out Your Life podcast. As always, I'm your host, Cody Lionheart, and today I have with me a special guest, Tiffanie Kinsch. Welcome, Tiffanie.
Hello.
Hello. Well, thanks for coming and talking to me on this nice rainy day today.
Yeah, it's a nice day.
I guess you could say that.
Unless you wanted to swim.
Yes, then it's probably pretty bad. I mean, you can still swim in the rain, right?
Sure.
Yeah, and as long as it's not lightning.
Yeah. They always made us go inside, even in the inside pool, though. I didn't understand that.
I don't know if I agree with that, but yeah. So today we're going to talk a little bit about your journey through health and fitness and how that's changed many times and the things that you've struggled through and accomplished and where life's leading you to next. And I guess that's the best way to kick it off. So how long ago now has it been that you kind of started on this journey of getting healthier?
I think that I've always been on a journey of some sort. But I joined the gym probably about 5 years now. I've been at Lionheart.
So was that 2017?
Sure.
20,
you
it was.
can math that.
It's 22. So
I know math.
that's
remember?
5, right? Yeah, that's 5. Yeah, 17.
Yeah. So it's been about 5.
3 to 20 and then 2 more. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's how I figured it out.
I told you math.
Yeah, I got it.
I don't math.
I got it. So what happened like before 2017, like before you started here and started working with me?
Man. I think it was always like weight based. Like I always wanted to lose weight. And so, the gym part of it was just like what you would understand in society. To lose weight, you need to run or do cardio or all of that. It wasn't ever, I was going to the gym to get stronger or focus on anything other than
just losing weight.
Yeah.
And so what really made that shift for you when you're like, okay, I think I need to do something a little bit different?
Well, it wasn't until I was at the gym. I decided to come to Lionheart because of friends, Justin and Bry. They were like, for a whole year, I think, they were trying to convince me to come to Lionheart. And I'm like, no.
Jessica's really good at that.
Yeah. For a whole year. She's like, you would really like it. I'm like, I don't think so. No.
So I'm curious, like, I don't ever actually think we've had this conversation. What was it about that you're like, no? It
was because it was called a CrossFit gym. And I was like, I have to get in shape to come to this gym. I can't walk in here.
Well, and actually, that reason alone is one of the reasons why we de-affiliated.
Yeah.
For that exact reason. Because too many people were like, this is CrossFit, I can't do it.
Well, yeah, and I feel like this gym was always, once I'm in here, and understand what this gym was about, it wasn't what other CrossFit gyms even were about. It was different than most CrossFit gyms anyway.
Yes.
So
I'm glad to hear you say that because we work really hard to make that happen.
Yeah,
so yeah,
I still don't think I could walk into a CrossFit gym, another CrossFit gym to this day, and I would because I'm more comfortable now. But it still would be a very different gym than what Lionheart is.
Yeah, for sure. So what about the whole experience was different for you than I guess anywhere you had been before here?
There was just always some sort of acceptance of where you were. And there wasn't any shame to scale something down or, just do the workout the way you could do the workout. There wasn't any shame of that. And in fact, it was encouraged. So it wasn't until there was a workout called the deadlift ladder that really like changed my mind into, I want to get stronger, right?
Ooh, yeah. I
Do you remember that?
I don't remember that.
You don't remember this?
Specifically.
Okay, so it was specifically you were coaching it, and there was just like bars up this side and down the other side of the gym.
Okay, yeah.
And they got heavier and heavier.
Yeah.
And the girls went on one side and the guys went on the other because, of course, the guys...
I feel like the girls' bar was too light for you or something, wasn't it?
Yeah, and so you started shuffling around weights on this other side, and I got to the end and you were like, Tiffanie, come here. And so I came to the other side, to the guy's side, and started lifting up weights. And at that time, I was like, I'm good at this. I like this.
Like,
and so,
yes, I like a heavy barbell. This is kind of fun. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's when I kind of was like, let me shift over to feeling a little bit stronger instead of just coming to the gym because I feel like I need to lose weight.
Yeah. And so what specifically did that help you with in terms of like enjoying the process and being more consistent at, once you kind of came to that realization?
Well, I've never liked cardio. I've never
Up top.
never in my life have I liked cardio. Even when I was in shape playing basketball in high school, I remember we'd have to do sprints.
See, now that I'll disagree with you there. I do like the shorter stuff like that. Sprints, suicides, like that's my jam. Long distance.
I mean, I do them because I was told I had to get down the court in 4 seconds because I'm a forward, but I'm like, if there's not like a ball on the court, like making me forget that I'm running, then I hate it,
Yeah.
But, so I hated cardio, and just being able to say, oh, I can do other things that I actually enjoy, and it's still helping me.
Yeah.
It's still helping me where I want to be. So.
Yeah. So like, what would you say, just getting to that point in the first place, what was the biggest like misconception about health and fitness? Like something you thought was true or real before, and then as you kind of started going through your journey, you're like, oh my gosh, that's actually not the case at all.
It's not I think it's starting to turn now, but when I was growing up, it was like girls don't lift. They can't be, if they lift, they're
Women
going
aren't
to be
supposed
big,
to be strong.
Right.
Yeah.
They're not supposed to be strong, but they're definitely not supposed to look bulky and big.
Yeah.
And we're supposed to take up less space, not more, kind of
I
thing.
never understood that.
Yeah.
I feel like that's one of those things that like some really super insecure dude came up with. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
absolutely.
You can't be bigger than me. I'm like, well, then lift more, bro.
Well, come on.
Let's go.
Come lift my bar.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So I don't know. I feel like when I did start lifting, and I'm like, actually, I do remember, because I was going to say that I never really fell into that, but that's not the truth. I do remember falling into that. If I lift weights, I'm going to be bulky. I want to be lean and long. And so, you take Pilates and yoga because that's the workouts that everyone says makes you leaner and dance like. And my body has never been like that. That's not how I'm built. I even remember growing up, my mom would call me specifically to move heavy objects, like, hey, come here. I mean, I think she called,
you could do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think she called me her ox at one point, like, I was like, okay, whatever.
That's awesome.
So, I mean, I always have been that body type and when I realized and kind of embraced it, I really enjoyed that type of workout. And I think it's important to figure out what your body was made for. We're all made for some kind of workout or some kind of activity. And it's fun when you realize what your body was made for, and then you kind of enjoy that more.
So how is that, this whole lifestyle and transition thing carried over to your girls, and kind of how that example is at home?
I didn't think about my actions when my first was born and how that rubbed off on her, how I would always talk to her or make sure that her plate was perfect, right? I would always make sure that her plate had the protein and the veggies and the whatever, like make sure her plate was perfect. But at the same time, I wasn't eating that myself, or she would never see me work out or do anything physical or things like that. After I had my second girl, I kind of started figuring that out a little bit more coincidentally. And so from then on, it was really important to me to show them what a healthy lifestyle is. I think that girls in this society have it a little harder. Maybe I don't know that, but I'm a girl and I have girls.
Sure.
And men probably have its own set of stereotypicals they have to get through. But as far as women and taking up space and being able to be strong and unapologetic. I've always kind of tried to teach them that they don't need to be that way and that they can do whatever they want.
Yeah.
They can be strong if they want. They can wear what they want. They can be healthy in a way that's natural to them.
Got it. Yeah. So what about that? Like, why is that such an important thing for you to make sure that they understand and that you're teaching them?
I think that in our society shapes our kids whether we want it to or not. Even
Absolutely. Yep.
Yeah. Even if we're drilling to them, you know, how it is and
social media and friends and everything. They're a lot more than we are.
It doesn't matter how much their parents say to them. They are going to see the outside world. And I realized that I needed to be a bigger presence in that to be able to influence them how they can be if they choose.
Yeah.
So I didn't want the outside world. I knew it was going to influence them, but I wanted to be a bigger presence of, if you want to come to the gym with me, come to the gym with me. I'm not going to force you to come to the gym, but I want you to be comfortable enough to come to the gym if you want.
And it did. I mean, Jade was coming there for a while.
Yeah. Rosie likes to come too. She probably likes to come more than Jade.
Yeah. She seems to really like the hanging on the bar and the gymnastics rings more than she likes like deadlifting. Absolutely. Or the dumbbells, even like any of that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if that was a very good example, but kind of threw me on that one.
What do you mean?
I don't know. It's just, my kids are like, you know, of course, like all of our kids, they're like the most important things to us. And so it's just kind of like, how am I a good example for them? And I just want to make sure that what I'm doing in my life is a good example. Yeah. You know? So when I realized that maybe what I was doing wasn't the greatest example, or wasn't showing them, maybe it wasn't an example at all, right?
Yeah.
I wasn't showing them what I was thinking. When I stepped on the scale, what was my face doing when I stepped on the scale? Or, you know, now when we step on the scale, like Rosie will step on the scale and be like, Mom, I'm 62.5 pounds. And I'm like, that's awesome. That's strong. Let me see your muscles. That's how we react to the scale now, which if I didn't catch myself really early on to, you know, before she was born, when I stepped on the scale, I'm like, oh, why does this hurt so much? You know, like there's this meme out there that's perfect. Like there's these two little girls that one of them's on the scale and one of them's looking, and they're just looking down and they're like, why does Mom cry when she steps on this? It doesn't hurt, you know? And it's just kind of wakes you up. Like they look at everything you do, you know? They're always watching. Always.
You slip up once and you're like, holy crap, where'd you learn that? I'm like, oh, dang it.
Yeah, well,
you got that from me.
Right? I'm still trying to kind of correct the bad food, good food thing, because that's what I was doing before. Oh, that's bad for you, you know? And now they're like, hey, Mom, is this food bad for me? You know? And I'm like, I know where you got that. You got it from me, but I'm still trying to figure out.
But that's also a big part of society as a whole, like you had talked about, right? Like it's always, this is a bad food and a good food, which is a huge part. I think that what we've worked on for so long is that's one part right there, because of all the shame that's basically wrapped up in a bad food, right? Yeah. If it's a bad food and then I eat some of that bad food, it puts me into a spiral of, well, now I'm a bad person and now I get off track, and now it's, you know, it's just like one thing after another, and it's kind of like I said, it's just a downward spiral. And I think changing that concept, I'm not saying that eat anything you want whenever you want, because that's a dangerous game. Yeah. But at the same time, like I need to have a little bit of balance of the, what I like to call the less nutrient food, and maybe the more nutrient dense food, right? Like if eating pizza needs to be a part of your overall diet for you to be sustainable, then have it. Yeah. But then maybe just don't eat a whole extra large and don't do it every weekend, you know, like. Absolutely. There you go. Yeah. Yeah. So we work on it. It was like, well, I mean, you can eat that food. You just have to watch how much you eat from it, you know? And is that like I call them red foods for me, because my red foods are foods that
I can't stop eating once I eat them, once I start,
Yeah.
So
They're kind of like your trigger foods, you're saying.
yeah.
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 Yeah. Well, that's good that you identify that, because it's like, for myself as an addict, like that's always the thing. Like, what are my triggers that are going to set me off for relapse? It doesn't matter that I've been clean at this point for 11 years. If this is a trigger and I go near my trigger, what's going to happen? Like, it's going to set me off. And foods are exactly the same way. Like, if you know that environments or foods or whatever are going to put you into a bad position, then you try to avoid them, minimize them, or whatever. But even just like, if you remember back, like way back when, what was the first step? It was just being conscious of what you're eating, right? And when we did that food log, you're like, oh my gosh, now that I'm actually like conscious of it, this is a lot different than I thought. It's kind of like that concept of, well, maybe it wasn't for you, but for us, like, as soon as we decided to have kids, like, you go, like, everywhere you seem to go, and it's like everyone has a newborn, you know what I'm saying? And like, what the crap is going on? Like, were these babies just born all of a sudden? It's like, no, you're just now aware of like, well, we're thinking about having kids and we want to have kids, and we'd had 2 miscarriages, so then it was even harder. And then, so you're seeing all these people with kids and you try to be happy, but you're like, I'm dying inside. So yeah, like I said, just that whole consciousness level of, I think, health as a whole is that it's a huge turning point, right? So even just being aware of, hey, these are the foods that I'm going to binge on if I start. So
yeah, absolutely.
Maybe I need to not start.
I still have like a red bot from, I know we did that program. I don't know how many years now, 3 maybe, 3 or 4.
I want to say closer to 4, because I feel like we started actually working on the nutrition stuff. I think it was close to a year after you had been here.
Yeah.
I tried talking to you about it in the beginning, and you weren't having it because you just weren't having it. I don't remember why. I don't know. Do you remember why?
I don't know. I don't remember you trying to talk to me about it at the beginning. I mean, I'm sure you did, but I don't remember why. I think I wasn't ready for a long time. I'm still not completely ready. I'm still not, it's always going to be a battle.
Yeah, and I think that's a good point. Like, we all go through phases in our health, and in order to be like sustainable, like truly sustainable, is you have to be flexible. If you're in this mindset of like, let's say I always have to lose weight, there may be a time in your life like, you know what, I'm actually happy where I am at, and maybe I want to ease off a little bit more. I want to work out a little bit less, and I want to focus on something else, right? Your kids have sports. Okay, well, prioritize the kids' sports. I'm not saying stop working out, but maybe we're doing more walking, or we're working out at home, or we're doing something else, but just being flexible overall. I mean, that's just hard.
Yeah.
Even for myself, that's hard.
Yeah. I mean, I will truly say that like food is my addiction, and when you are trying to change that, that battle's never going to go away. But when you're trying to change, into something that's healthier for you as far as how you view food, it's always going to be there.
Always.
And so when you're focusing on changing that all the time, 24/7 for years and years and years, like sometimes you just have to take a step back and be like, let me do something else for a second.
Yep.
Like, instead of just focusing on losing weight because I do that every day for years, let me focus on strength, or let me focus on getting this pull up, or whatever it might be, for just a minute. Just take a break,
Yep.
So,
well, I think that's why it's always important to have like several different goals in general, right? Back when you were an athlete, when we were both athletes, the focus is the sport, right? Like, the season's coming up, we want to be better, we want to win more games, score more points, whatever it is. But then when we become parents, it's a lot harder, because now you have all these other things that are pulling on our attention that we didn't have before, right? And when you become a parent, it's like your kids are your first priority. So what I found that worked really well for me is that's why I do 2 or 3 like different challenges, competitions, or whatever every single year, so that I'm always working towards something. I'm always training towards something. Because if I don't, what I started seeing is, man, maybe instead of having pizza like every 6 weeks, now it's like every other weekend. And instead of going to the gym and like training with intent, like I go and I just kind of go through the motions, right? Like, it is good sometimes to just go through the motions, because you got to do the things you don't want to do, but do it like you love it. You know, because if you only do the right things on the day you feel like it, like that's not a whole lot of days, you know, it's just not. But if I know I have something coming up, like, hey, I have the one that I really like is the Tactical Strength Challenge, or the TSC. And that only happens like twice a year. So if I've got that, and then, you know, I did like an Olympic lifting competition, did a bunch of those, and a powerlifting meet, and, you know, a bunch of CrossFit competitions, things like that. If I know that every 4 months or so I have something coming up, I'm like, oh, nope, I gotta get to the gym. I can't slack off. It keeps me working towards something. I don't usually have like body goals, I guess, like weight goals. I do right now because I'm trying to get down a little bit, but having, let's say, one's a weight goal, then maybe one's a performance goal, then maybe the next is an inches goal, and the next one's maybe like, I don't know, I don't really struggle with sleep, but a lot of clients that I work with do. So a goal for them is, I want to be able to sleep a certain amount of hours. Okay, cool. You see what I'm saying? So like,
Yeah.
you have these different kind of goals, and it makes it easier to keep going, because it's so easy to be like, I'm not going to go to the gym today.
Right.
It really is.
I also think that it's important to have like both short-term and long-term goals.
Absolutely.
Because if you just have that long-term goal, like,
It seems like you're never going to hit it.
yeah,
It's like, what's the point?
Forever.
Yeah.
Like, I'm never going to get there. Why should I keep going? Kind of thing.
So what's been like the biggest, like if you had to pick one, obviously you've had a lot of changes and transformations, like your life is nowhere close to the same as what it was when you first started here. But if you had to pick one thing that's like your biggest takeaway from this whole process that you've gone through thus far, what would that be?
Confidence.
And what? And
in
how?
myself.
Okay.
Just being confident in myself, and I don't need to hold back. I am who I am, and I don't need to apologize for that. And I deserve space in this world just as much as everyone else. I actually remember it was probably the first week, the first class. I can't remember, but it was the gym was packed, and we were jump roping, and I couldn't even jump rope when I first came in to the. But that's not the point here. But we were jump roping. The gym was packed, and I just felt like I was in everyone's way. And so I started kind of falling back into the other room. I'm like, I'll jump rope up here. And you said, you deserve to be in this gym just as much as everybody else. Go back out there, you know, kind of thing. And from there, it was just kind of like more confidence, you know, that I built throughout. But yeah, just being confident with myself and knowing that I'm worth something, and that I deserve, you know, I deserve what I work hard for.
Yeah. So just hearing that, I wonder, when you first came here or first started to just, you know, like you said in the beginning, just trying to lose weight, did you ever think that confidence was a part of that?
No.
So what was that kind of connection of what you thought it was about compared to what you just said?
To lose weight?
Yeah.
Well, I take that back. I guess I thought that if I lost weight, I'd be more confident.
Gotcha.
Right? I mean, I'd be more beautiful, more confident, more whatever, more. I deserve
so
a spot
the weight
in the
on
world.
the scale was connected to your worth, is basically what you're saying.
Yeah.
Is what you thought before.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
100%.
And now you're saying it's more shifted in that your health gives you confidence. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Do you feel like that confidence is carried over outside of the gym?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I've gained in my own career since I've been here. I've gained a lot. You know, I went from, you know, stepping up a few different spots in my career, from going from a specialist, I guess, you know, to a director. So because I knew I could do it, and I did it, and
and you knew what you were worth, so you knew to ask for it.
Yeah.
I remember when you told me about that. That was, I still tell that story to a lot of people nowadays, because it's amazing, because it's like, that's truly the power of like what health and fitness does for people, even if, to this day, how many inches that you've lost is great. And the weight that you can lift is insane. You're like the strongest female in the entire gym. But when I hear a story like that, it's like, oh my gosh, yes.
Yeah.
Because the lifting and being the heaviest or the strongest person in the gym doesn't get you out of the bed at 5 a.m. when you got to get to the gym.
No.
It just doesn't, right? Like, it just doesn't. I mean, those are all great. And those are like the sprinkles. Well, I don't like sprinkles, but maybe with the chocolate chips. Yeah, the chocolate chips will go chocolate chips. Those are the chocolate chips and the cookie, right?
Yeah. Yeah. No, like I actually, if somebody's talking to me about the weight that I'm lifting, I'm a lot more embarrassed than whenever I'm at work and and I'm like, okay, let's do this, kind of thing. Like I'm, not that I'm not confident in the gym, but I still have, okay, but you can lift too, kind of.
Everybody can.
Everybody can lift.
Absolutely.
Like, don't compare me. I've been doing this for how long, Don't compare what I can do. I guess really I just want people to understand that just because I'm over here lifting whatever, like today we bench pressed and we were sets of 6 or whatever, and I got to 135, and it was a group of girls, and I just don't want people to look at me and compare what I'm lifting to them, because we all start somewhere, and if that's your goal, you can definitely get there.
Absolutely, you just got to keep working for it.
Yeah. But I'm way more confident at work because I don't feel like I'm being compared, I guess.
Yeah.
To each other. It's just kind of a team, and I want that same in the gym for others too. I want to work as a team. If that's what you want to go for and you've got a question, I'm going to answer your question, if I can.
Yeah.
So
yeah, you're talking about comparing, and you're talking about how
it's human nature to compare, right? Yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
But just make sure that you're comparing for the better to get to a goal that you've decided that you want. Not comparing and then beating yourself up because you're not as that person's goal that you're comparing them to. Because you don't know what they've worked. You don't know how long they've worked. You don't know if they got a special program from the coach that they're working on. And if that is something that you want as your goal, then ask them questions. How did you get there? What did you have to do? And then a lot of times we're all built differently. And so what they had to do could be different than what you have to do. And that's okay too. But just make sure that you're not comparing yourself and beating yourself over it.
Yep.
Up over it.
Yeah, I think that's important for sure. So if you were sitting down and talking with your girls right now and just telling them, I don't know, giving them some of your words of wisdom of all of this that you've learned, what would that word of wisdom be?
They wouldn't listen to me.
Okay, well, let's say they were going to listen to you.
I want them to look at their bodies as normal. I don't want them to compare themselves to social media, to magazines, to pictures of whatever you see out there, and say, maybe because I don't have my thigh gap, I feel bad about my legs.
Yeah.
I want them to see that everybody's body is different and that they're normal. And if there is something about their body that bugs them because it truly bugs them, then they can set goals to work out and achieve whatever it is that they want to achieve. But I want them to see their body as normal.
Yeah, and doing that in a healthy way.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think that's huge. I mean, because like we talked about in the very beginning, it's not like health is not just about weight loss. And I told you that, and it was like your brain exploded, and you were like, no, I just want to lose weight.
That's probably why I ignored you for the
year. Probably. I was like, okay. And I just kind of let it ride, and then eventually you were ready.
Yeah.
And you made the change. So for me, as your coach, to be able to hear that difference of where you were 5 years ago to to now makes me feel good. Makes me know that I'm doing the right thing and getting the right message across. And there's been lots of conversations and tears and
Absolutely.
hard work, but like in the end, when you start to form that habit, it's like when you don't do it anymore, like I'm sure when you don't come to the gym, like things feel off.
Yeah.
When you don't eat the way that you need to be eating, like things feel off.
Yeah.
And that's how you know that like true habits are being formed, right? And so that's great to say this has been going on for the last 5 years, but we've got like 3, almost 4 decades worth of bad habits we have to override. So it's like 5 years is a great start, but it's like you're literally laying the foundation for the next 3 or 4 decades.
Yeah.
And that's exciting.
I can honestly say that, now if I fall off for whatever reason, because we're all going to fall off throughout, no matter how long we've been doing it, right? I feel like I physically feel sick. Like I feel awful. My body doesn't feel right. I'm not.
I like to call that recalibrating, not falling off, but yeah.
Okay. However,
I'm in my recalibration phase.
Recalibration. But then I'm like, okay, I need to tighten it back up, right?
Because your body physically feels different. You're like, man, I had all the nutrients I needed, and I feel great in my sleep and my working out, and
now I feel sluggish and bloated, and
whereas before it's like, well, I've always felt like this, so
that's just normal. It was just normal, right?
Yeah.
Like, and not being hungry was normal, but you'd still eat, and now it's just like, man, I want to, like, if I recalibrate, if I'm in that period, and I'm like, man, I'm not feeling hungry again. Like, I want to feel hungry again.
Yeah.
I want to not feel bloated. I want to feel not slow. I want to feel energized, and it's just not me. I'm not feeling right. And so that kind of motivates me to get back on, and do those things. And I just kind of went through that recently, and I'm just now climbing over that hill again.
Yeah.
And so, starting to feel better, and you're like, okay, I feel better. Okay, I can keep doing this.
Yeah.
I feel better. I feel more energized. I can wake up when I'm supposed to wake up again, and I don't feel like, trash getting up,
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, so it's nice to be able to just know what you need to do and just get back on it.
Yeah. Well, and I think each time you go to get back on it, what do we always talk about? Remember what we worked on in the beginning?
Small steps.
Like, it always goes back to the basics. Like, it doesn't matter how long you've been in the journey, which is why the way that, I coach things is exactly like that. It's not complicated. There's not a million things to do. There's one thing. What's the one thing that we can do to make improvement today? And then we just do that.
Yep. And if that seemed like it was too big, then let's
cut it in half.
draw
And
it back.
yeah, exactly. And then just do one thing. And it makes it a lot less daunting. You know what I mean? When you're coming out of your calibration phase.
Calibration.
Right?
Calibration.
Exactly. So you're starting, you kind of fell off and you come back to it and you're like, man, but now I got to do this and this and this and this and this. You're like, I just can't do it. It's just so overwhelming. Like, hold on, just pull it back.
Right. And your voice now says, no, you don't. Just keep doing what you do. If that's all you can muster right now, then that's what you do.
Yeah. As long as you're not giving up.
Yeah.
That's all good. Because once again, like I said, it's like you're setting the foundation for the next however many decades you have left on Earth. So the way we do that is to stay consistent. Yeah. So what does the future hold for Tiffanie?
I don't know.
What goals, ambitions, dreams you got going on next?
I do want to lose more weight. But now it's not a hurry, like it was before, like, man, this should have been lost yesterday.
Yeah. When I feel like when you told me that before, your reasoning for wanting to lose also was different. You want to share that?
I can't remember what my reason was like before, so I'm not sure.
Well, your
Like,
reason
so my
before,
reason
like,
now
well,
is
like
just,
just
I
like you were
feel
saying
better.
earlier, yeah, exactly. Well, earlier you were saying that like basically your worth was attached to your weight.
Oh, sure.
So I need to lose weight because I will be a better person if I'm lighter.
Yeah,
And
sure.
now you're saying I
It's-
feel a little bit better when I'm at a lighter weight.
Yeah.
And it's more of a it would be nice thing instead of like my identity is wrapped up.
Right. Like there's
In the
certain
weight.
things in the gym that I know would be easier for me if I had a few more pounds out of my way.
Yeah. And I think that's really important distinction. And that's why I brought that up. Losing weight in and of itself is not a bad thing. It's what's driving you to do it is what I won't say a bad thing necessarily, but maybe we needs to take a different focus.
Mm-hmm.
Because when it's like what you had previously of your worth is attached to your weight, even if you were to lose the weight, you actually wouldn't feel any different about yourself because internally we're still the same. The outside's different, but the inside's the same. So now, because you've been able to change that stuff inside, when you lose the weight, then the weight is just a bonus because your intent behind losing the weight is completely different.
Right. I think it's more, if you want to talk about sustainable diets, but sustainable mental health around it.
Sure, absolutely.
It's definitely a big piece. Because if I would have just went through a crash diet or whatever and lost the weight, I wouldn't have been happy.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have made the changes in my life that I needed to sustain that either.
Exactly, yeah. I think about it as like when you buy your own first car or maybe your own first apartment. Like if it's your car your parents give to you, you may love it, but at the same time, like, whatever. But it's that first car, even if it's a piece of crap. Like my first car was like I think I spent $1,200 on this little Ford Explorer. Man, I freaking love that thing because it was my car. Like I spent my money on it, and it's the same thing what you're talking about. You're able to change these habits and really own it, and then it makes everything that much different in life. It really does. It seems so woo-woo to say that, but I mean, that's why so many people get stuck because they only focus on how much weight can I lose and how quickly can I do it.
Yeah.
Instead of all the little baby steps, all the little tiny things that have to change in order to make sure that the weight actually stays off and that you are happy. Because there's plenty of people who are thin that, one, are unhappy and they're not even that healthy.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's like skinny does not equal healthy. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's one thing that I've had to, which I didn't know that I had to, because that's not something that I feel like I, put out there for my girls to understand. But my youngest was like, I want to be skinny. And I'm like, why?
Yeah.
And she's like, well, and she's 8. She can't give me a reason why really, but she said it a couple of times. I'm like, why do you want to be skinny? And I was like, you want to be strong? She's like, yeah. I'm like, you want to be healthy? Yeah. I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
I'm like, so, to her, maybe that phrase skinny was that she meant she wanted to be strong and healthy. But as she gets older, I want to make sure that she knows that that's what she means, is she wants to be strong and healthy. Like skinny, whatever.
Yeah.
Like you want to be strong, you want to be healthy. That's what's going to carry you through life. If your ultimate goal is to live as long as you can, you want to be strong and healthy, not skinny or fat. Like it doesn't,
Yeah, I totally agree with that 100%. So what would you say to, I don't know, if someone was kind of like struggling the same way that you were struggling and they're like, man, I can't seem to get this health thing under control. Like what advice would you give them? Or let me rephrase that. What advice would you give to the Tiffany that started 5 years ago? If you were sitting here talking the Tiffany now, talking to the Tiffany from 5 years ago, what advice would you give her?
I mean, I think I had to go down the path that I did. I had to take it slow. I had to reevaluate why I was wanting to lose the weight. And I had to kind of look at my whole life, my whole mental health. really, in all of it. My physical health came along after my mental health did. So I am really thankful for coming to Lionheart and figuring out that path. It didn't come without, obstacles. I didn't figure it all out at once, and that's okay, because that path led me to where I'm at today, and it'll lead me to where I'm at in 10 years and 15 and 20, and that's okay. It doesn't have to happen all at once, and to be okay with that is probably the biggest piece of advice. Just be okay with it not happening by tomorrow.
Yeah. Do you think Tiffany from 5 years ago would listen?
No. I wanted it done yesterday.
Yeah. I think that's really good advice, though. I think that's, just like I said, just a testament to just slowing down, doing the boring work, just doing it every day.
Most people know what they need to do. They just need to slow. It's simple, really.
It's simple, but the novelty wears off.
Yeah.
And I think that's where you were able to push through a lot of those roadblocks, is because we were working together. And at those times when you're like, you either wanted to completely give up, or you were just frustrated, or the scale wasn't moving the way you wanted it to, we would have a conversation about it, and I was able to kind of like course correct you.
Yes.
Kind of keep you corralled in, like, nope.
Oh yeah.
Nope.
I needed somebody to corral me. That's for sure.
And I think that's honestly where most people get frustrated with it, because they don't have a corralling. It's great. Like, the thing that got you in the door to come and talk to me, that motivation, is not the same motivation that's going to keep you going 5 years down the road. It's just not. Because generally that motivation gets people off the couch and moving is a negative motivator. Negative motivator only lasts for a short amount of time, and then you kind of forget about it. And it's like, think about like a bad relationship that you've been in, and you're like, it wasn't really that bad. And like, yes, it was. And then some. You're just not remembering it all because it was too far away, right? So it got you going, and then people, oh man, I'm so motivated, I'm going to go run a marathon. Great. And then as soon as that motivation dies down, like, whatever, I don't want to do it anymore. And that's where people get messed up.
Yeah.
And that's why having me here, like, I don't want to say pushing you, because you got to want to do it, right?
Yeah.
It's more like me standing in front of you, kind of showing the path, so to speak.
Yeah.
And then you having to choose the path.
Eventually, just your presence, I'm like, dang it.
Knowing that I'm going to check in on you and call you on it.
Or my husband's like, I'm going to tell Cody you're eating that. I'm like, tell him. Go ahead.
Yeah,
he's not going to care.
Yeah. That's probably one of the biggest differences. Yeah. A lot of coaches are like, oh my gosh, that's such a bad food. I'm like, you've never heard me say that.
Yeah. But and it's funny that, like, even in my household, like, my husband still doesn't understand some of those concepts. Like, go ahead, tell Cody I just ate this candy bar. Like,
I'm going to say, did you enjoy it? Really good.
Tell him, go ahead. Tell him. He never does. I'm waiting for him to do it, but he never does. But, but that's how the world thinks about healthy lifestyles, is that you never mess up, that you can never have the foods that you want to eat, and that's the majority of how we think about people that are in the gym and being healthy.
Oh yeah. I know when I've been out places and like at a, birthday party or a backyard barbecue or something, and I'm over here like eating macaroni salad and like eating something fried and just a ton of cheese or whatever, and they're like, oh my gosh, you can eat that? I'm like, I'm not a dog. Like, yes, I can eat this. What do you mean? Like, well, you're like a healthy person. I'm like, yes, I also eat vegetables and lean meats and stuff too, but right now I'm having this. Is that okay?
Right? Because you planned for it. And that's the other part about on the flip side, right? Whenever you are in the healthy lifestyle for a while and it kind of becomes your identity.
Yeah, they're like, oh, they're the healthy person.
Yeah, like in the office or whatever, like, oh, she's not going to eat that or whatever. And then that day that you do, they're like, oh, you can have that? And I'm like, well,
Gasp. I can. I choose not to get my food from a donut every day of the week. That's all.
Right. And so then when you do eat that thing because you decided that that's the thing that you wanted this week or that day, they're like all surprised about it. And it's just like, I can eat that. Consistency.
Yeah, exactly.
I want to be consistent. And this is my day that I'm going to do this. That's fine. But
I always tell people it's the 80-20, right? 80% rule. I can say doing what I need to do 80% of the time, then the other 20%. I don't want to say it doesn't completely matter, but it's like 80%. That's pretty good. I'm allowing 20% for me to be human.
right.
Not a big deal.
Yeah.
Not a big deal. All right. Well, that's all we have for you today in the Max Out Your Life podcast. Once again, with my host, Tiffanie Kinsch. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you, audience. We appreciate it. Have a great rest of your day. We'll see you next time.